Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 11. We're going to take a little bit of a different track today and talk about business strategy, strategic management, but we're going to introduce an element that your book doesn't go into to a great detail, but is critical when we're looking at strategic management. Start off, let's kind of set the stage. Most CEOs have things together. They're smart, they're generally successful, they generally have a track record of success. And when they're planning the strategy for the business, they usually have a good set of well-articulated goals and objectives. These should be written down, but with smaller businesses, they're not always written down, but they're there. There are certain things that CEOs want to accomplish with the business. They usually have an operational strategy that may be good, may not be so good. Again, the strategy may be well articulated, it may be documented, it should be written down, but for smaller organizations, it may not be, and it may have developed more organically as a single individual starts a business and experiments and figures out what works, what doesn't work. And they usually have a financial strategy or a strategy on how they're going to manage the finances of the business, the finances they need to raise in order to conduct the business, create the product, create the service that they want to put out there for customers and create the value for customers. But there's usually a third focus that's not listed here that most CEOs don't spend much time on. And while that's beginning to change to a very, very, very large degree in today's business organizations, this is an area that senior executives don't tend to focus on unless they're in the HR field. This area of strategy is essential to accomplish goals and to accomplish objectives. Without this piece, your strategy can't be realized to its full potential. You can't achieve your goals fully that you want to achieve without this element, without this missing piece of strategy. So we need to ask the question, what is the most overlooked aspect of strategy? And there's a lot of things that might come to mind for you. Maybe you think it's marketing strategy or strategy on how to acquire new customers. Perhaps it's operational strategy. But talent strategy is actually the most overlooked aspect of strategy. You have to have a strategy on how to not only find and retain good talent, but how to motivate them, how to develop them, how to continue to inspire them. Most executives relegate it down the hall to HR. So you may go to the CEO and said, hey, we have a turnover problem. And a typical response of, well, HR's down the hall, go ahead and talk to them about it and see what you guys can work out. The truth is, talent strategy is the business of all leaders. Every leader, and indeed it even goes down to the responsibility of everybody in the organization, because a big component of talent strategy is the organizational culture. But every leader should be involved. Every leader should be concerned with the talent strategy, and every leader should know what the organization's talent strategy is and how it ties into their organizational strategy overall. So talent must be optimized in order for strategy to be fully realized. And why is that? That's because organizations don't execute strategy. People do. So it is your people that are going to execute your strategy. It is your people who are going to achieve the goals that you have for the organization. Without a good talent optimization strategy, you're not going to be able to achieve your goals. You're not going to be able to execute your strategy. You're not going to be able to do much of anything. And if you have a disengaged workforce, then it's going to be even harder, even though you may be, even if you're fully staffed, if your staff is there but disengaged, they're not going to have the production levels you need to accomplish your goals, and so you're going to miss. A little bit on talent optimization. So talent optimization uses data and analytics to make sure that a business leader's path to success is both informed and purposeful, because it has to be a deliberate, purposeful, well-informed decision when you go into your talent strategy. Through the tool of talent optimization, you can define job requirements. Well-defined job requirements are essential to a good talent strategy. And that means more than just handing them off to maybe an HR person who doesn't like doing it, because a good job description, defining the job and defining the requirements of the job, it's work. It's not the most fun thing that you can do in HR, but it is work, but it needs to be done, because everything else in your talent strategy will be built off of that job description. Talent optimization helps you identify the ideal candidates for the well-designed positions that you have created. It aligns teams to accomplish business goals. So it not only helps you find the people, it helps you find the right people and put them in the right teams, doing the right jobs in a way that's aligned to your business strategy so that you can accomplish your business goals. It also allows you to effectively inspire employees for optimal results. Based on their work styles and their work preferences, you can better inspire them and motivate them in ways that are meaningful to the employees. There are certain essentials to a good talent optimization model. The very first one is that your talent strategy needs to be encased in a business context. It doesn't stand alone. It is not separate from your operational strategy, but it should serve the operational strategy. So talent strategy needs to be framed within the context of the business and the particular business that it is housed in. It also needs to be data-driven, and we're talking about people data. So a good talent strategy, especially when we're talking talent optimization, needs to be driven by data. So you have to have a means of collecting data from employees in a way that is substantial, in a way that's validated, which means that your means of gathering data has been proven to predict what it's designed to predict. You need to look at talent optimization as developing leaders at every level. And you need to look at every individual in your organization as a leader or a future leader. You need to stop thinking that only our high performers are the only ones we're going to develop for leadership. No, you have hidden talent within your organization, and you have talent that has not been tapped into. And the only way you're going to tap into it is by looking at your talent strategy as if you have leaders at every level and in every individual in your business. So nobody gets left behind, nobody gets neglected in the development process. And then we also have to frame our strategy with the forces of disengagement in mind. There are 4 forces of disengagement that we are going to look at. So what are the forces of disengagement? The first one is job. If the employee is not well matched according to their work style and personality, but the work style assessment really, behavioral assessment will really tell you all this. If they are not well matched to the job, then they're going to become disengaged. They're going to come possibly resentful, and job performance will suffer. So employees need to be well matched to the job based on the requirements of the job and their work styles. There can be manager issues. So if if the individual and the manager are not well matched, or because you will have teams where you need people who don't share the work styles or personality characteristics of the manager, but you have to have ways of bridging that gap. And the manager needs to know how to relate to the team member in a way that motivates the team member and makes the team member feel seen and appreciated as a human being, appreciated for who they are. So there's skills in that, and data can help illustrate the path to that sort of engagement. Then you can have team as a force of disengagement. So each member needs to be aligned to the team, and the team needs to know how to work together effectively. And again, you can have people on the same team that don't share in the work styles, don't share in personality characteristics, and without effective management, without knowing how to get the team to work together cohesively through the data and what the data shows you and what the analysis of the data shows you, and then implementing strategies to execute to keep your teams cohesive, then you're going to have disengagement on the team, which will affect more than just one individual. And finally, culture can be a force of disengagement. So is the individual aligned to the culture? And data can help determine that as well. So when we're talking about the business context, we know that we have, first of all, we have a business strategy. And our business strategy is designed to get us business results. So that's the goal. And usually that's the extent of how this is looked at. Business strategy is how we achieve our business goals. So business strategy directly relates to business results. But as you can see in this diagram, there's a big chasm between business strategy and business results. There's a big gap that we need to fill in. And our talent strategy is what's going to fill in that middle area. There are a few different elements, four exactly, of a good talent optimization strategy. And the first is what we're going to call design. When we're looking at the design, we're looking at the organizational structure. And when we talk organizational structure, we're not talking about controls. We're not talking about the legal organization, the legal entity. We're talking about our people structure in the organization. Do we have a good leadership fit? Are our leaders a good fit for our strategy, for our culture, for where we're going with this company, for our goals? If it's not a good leadership fit, then everything else is going to fall apart because everything rises or falls with leadership. We have good team dynamics. We have to develop that. We have to use our data to know how to get our teams to work together, to appreciate each other's working styles. Is there a good fit for the organizational culture in our design? What is the organizational culture? We need to design the culture that we want to have. We need to design the behaviors that we want copied. And leadership needs to demonstrate those behaviors daily and communicate daily. You cannot over communicate. So design is a process that should be visited at least once a year. You need to review the elements that relate to disengagement and make sure your design is still addressing those forces of disengagement. Next, we'll look at the second element, which is hire. So when we're talking hiring, we're talking about tasks that happens all the time. So even if you're not constantly hiring people, which is the trend today because there's so much turnover in most of our organizations, you should be constantly working the pipeline so that when you have a need, you have someone that can step into it, whether that's outside or hopefully you're developing people inside your organization as well, preparing them to step up into other roles. And when there's a vacancy, then you have a qualified, experienced group of individuals who can take over the role that also know your company and fit into the culture. We need to have a good set of job requirements. What we're talking about here are KSAOs. That's knowledge, skills, abilities, and other attributes. And our data, our employee data, can help find the people that fulfill those, but you have to define them first. You have to know what is the basic knowledge that's needed to start this position, the basic skills, the basic attributes, basic abilities. So you don't want to hire someone who is good in sales, for example, may not make a very good accountant. And you want to make sure you're hiring the very best people that fit best into the role that you've designed. You need to prepare your interview team. Now, your interview team may not necessarily be everyone who's involved in the interview process. It could include the people who help you design the job. It could include other employees in the position, other supervisors that this position may interact with, other departments, customers possibly. You could figure out what, if this position interacts with customers, you need to have a way of knowing how well they're going to do that. And there we need to know that they're going to fit in with our team dynamics, because we designed our teams and we designed our culture. And we need to make sure that there's a good fit between the individual with the team and with the culture of our organization. After hire, we have what we call inspire. Now, hire and inspire both happen frequently, all the time, every day. Design once, twice a year. Hire and inspire need to happen all the time. The inspire element includes career pathing, career design. How do you grow inside the organization from one position to another? How do you increase in responsibility? How do you increase in your pay? How do you increase in your proficiency and your abilities to do certain jobs? And that may not always be within the same department. Maybe there's someone who's good in sales and transitions to marketing. Maybe there's someone who's a good accountant and transitions to HR. The more diverse the opportunities are in your organization, the more qualified those individuals become as they rise higher and higher up into the leadership. Job redesign may be necessary. Things change rapidly in the business world. We live in a complex world. So maybe a job that was a good design and a good description 6 months ago, maybe it's changed so much we need to redesign that job and make sure the person's still a good fit. Employee development is so important, and every individual in your organization should have some form of development every single day. That is the best diversity program you could have in your organization, is to constant, continual development of every individual to make sure those opportunities are available to everybody. You need to make sure the manager knows how to inspire, and the manager is inspired themselves. Team dynamics and culture also are very important in the inspire. You need to constantly work on your team dynamics and make sure the team is constantly in agreement, is constantly working together towards the organizational goals. You need to reinforce the culture by demonstrating and manifesting the behaviors that you want modeled in your organization. All right, and so once we've got all these in place, we've got our design, our hire, our inspire, all those elements are in place, they're working well. We tie it all together with a big circle that's continually going that we call diagnose. And diagnose is a system of continuous improvement in your people strategy. So there's no such thing as a people strategy that once you develop it, it's good forever. You have to continually be improving it, continually developing it as much as you develop your own people. You need to measure, which means people data. You have to have people data, and you have to have some sort of system for acquiring people data. And people data is more than just turnover statistics. I've seen a lot of organizations that their people data consists primarily of turnover statistics, and they try to formulate their whole strategy based on that. But they know nothing about the people. Why are they leaving? Why are others staying? What are their work styles? We have to have good, comprehensive people data. We have to be able to objectively analyze our people data. We need a good system that will help us do that. And we need to be able to prescribe action, because all the data and analysis in the world doesn't do anybody any good unless we have a way to turn it into action that benefits people, that benefits the organization, and that benefits everybody within the organization, every single person at every level. Now, what happens when we don't have a good talent strategy, a good talent optimization strategy? What happens? What is the result? The result is pain. So we'll have pain in the area of our business results because we'll miss our targets, and then we have to explain that. We'll have pain in the area of paying a people tax. We'll have disengaged employees, we'll have employees that leave, we may have high turnover. And let me say, if your turnover is more than 10%, you need help in this area. It means you're not managing it well, you don't know how to manage it well, you need to bring someone in, probably from the outside, to come in and help you solve this issue. Nobody should ever settle for a turnover higher than 9 or 10%. And you're going to risk pain of not being able to execute your strategy effectively. The result is pain in many areas. And the problem is that most people only look at the surface pain. They look at these symptoms of the pain, but not the root cause of it. So a lot of organizations will treat the symptoms, but never get a grasp on the actual problem, never actually get a handle on the issue. Like if it's high turnover, which is a big indicator of an ineffective talent strategy, they'll try to address it by doing little programs to try and get people more engaged, to make them more happy, to make them stay. But we need to look deeper. We need to look at not just the symptoms, but what is the root cause of the problem. We need to also look at how it's impacting the business. How is the pain that we're experiencing as an organization, how is it impacting our business? And what will be the consequences if we don't get a handle on it? And we need to look at the personal impact that it's having on our leadership, on every individual within the organization, and what that's doing to us, and what is the risks that we're facing if we don't get a handle on it. So that's talent optimization. That's the strategy that we really need to get a handle on. We really need, every organization needs to develop a good talent optimization strategy. And the truth is that most organizations don't do that very well. Most business leaders aren't in the business of managing people well. Even most HR organizations are more geared towards policy enforcement than developing a really good, comprehensive, workable, and effective talent optimization strategy. All right, from there, let's talk a little bit about corporate governance. So corporate governance is the set of mechanisms that's used to manage the relationship among stakeholders and to determine and control the strategic direction and performance of organizations. At its core, corporate governance is concerned with identifying ways to ensure the strategic decisions are made effectively. So corporate governance is how do we make our strategy decisions in a way that are effective and in a way that produce effective results within the organization. And the purpose of corporate governance is to prevent severe problems. You may have problems that occur because of the separation of ownership and control. And especially in large terms, you need the separation between governance and management and ownership so that it doesn't improperly influence manager behavior. Managers need to make the best decisions that they can make for the good of the business, not necessarily because that's not necessarily because you're trying to make decisions based on what you think the owner would want, but you need to make decisions based on your abilities for the best of the business that will help it achieve its goals. Purpose of corporate governance again is to help direct top managers' actions towards the objectives of the organization. We can read here, it says the growth of the large modern public corporation is based primarily on the efficient separation of ownership and managerial control. And this is very important because not only do you run into legal and ethical issues if that separation is not present, but again, decision-making is hindered and the decisions that are made are more political and not in the best interests of the shareholders of the organization. So what might this look like? You might have a board of directors. The board of directors may be the top managers. Under them could be the executive team, and there could be some overlap between board of directors and executive team. But from there, managers are separated from the board, and they're making the decisions based on the best interests, and the top executives will report up to the board, but most of your decision makers are separated from that. So because of the board's importance, their performance is evaluated more formally and more intensely, and they can be fired more easily. A lot of boards have voluntary initiated some changes, which include increasing the diversity of the board members' backgrounds. What you want in diversity is a diversity of ideas and the freedom, the psychological safety for everybody to share their ideas and discuss them. Strengthening internal management and accounting control systems. Establishing and consistently using formal processes to evaluate the board's performance, very important. And creating a lead director role that has strong powers with regard to the board agenda and oversight of non-management board member activities. So you don't want your board involved in the actual day-to-day management of the organization. It is a high-level overseeing governance type of role. And changing the director compensation, especially reducing or eliminating stock options as part of the package. So when too much money is involved for these high-level positions, it becomes more of a political environment. And so your board is more interested in making the certain people happy who pay their salaries rather than actually doing what's best for the organization or the shareholders. Now, research shows that boards working collaboratively with management make higher quality level strategic decisions. They make decisions faster. They become more involved in the strategic decision-making process. So corporate governance is very important. It has a lot of elements to consider. That's the end of week 10's presentation. If you have any questions, reach out to me. Other than that, have a great week, and we will see you in class.